Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Kaylin and today I wanted to make a video I've been meaning to make for a while about basically what my childhood in the 90s taught me about living frugally. And there's just like, whenever I think back to it, there's just so many things that inspire me to live a simpler life and to really appreciate what I already have. And I think this could be really helpful if you're doing a no-buy year, although I also know there will be people watching who are older than me and have much more like wisdom to share, but I will just share the information that I have and hopefully it will kind of inspire you as well. So the first thing that I was going to say about my childhood is that I grew up in a village with like 1,000 people in it, and we had like a kind of typical 2 parents, 2 children type of household, and we were neither, when I was little, like totally broke, nor were we well off. I think we had to be careful with what we had basically and think through purchases and not like impulse buy, but I don't feel like there was the same availability or temptation then, because if you wanted to buy stuff you had to go to a shop to do it. There was no like internet, there was no like mobile phones, so it was like when you went home you were unreachable in terms of the possibility of buying stuff from home wasn't there unless you were going to order from a catalogue and wait for like weeks for it to arrive. And even like I remember my mum ordering clothes from a catalogue and you had to send off the like order form in the post, and even that was like a wait. So people didn't have the same ability to just buy stuff like spur of the moment. And I remember my parents like keeping the same stuff forever. Like even when I go to their house now, they live in a house that was like my second childhood home, and whenever they are clearing stuff out they will now and again kind of produce something. Sorry, I've got my daughter's cold by the way, and I will not realize it was even there, but they've held on to it for like 30 or 40 years and a lot of the stuff is still intact and working perfectly well. I think stuff was better made then and it was really made to last, but you replace stuff because you feel like it, or you see something that you like better, or just because like you kind of kept what you had, you looked after it and repaired it. And like they still use things, like for example my mum has this birthday banner that like she stuck up every year for our birthdays whenever we were little, and I think she still has it. Like I'm pretty sure she used it for one of my kids' birthdays in the last couple of years. So like obviously I feel like if you bought something like that today it's not the same quality and I don't feel like it would survive as long, but I like the fact that at that time you kept stuff for reuse and you just like you got all the kind of squeezed all the life out of it. Like you didn't throw it away just for no reason. Whenever we were little I don't remember eating out a lot other than maybe going to like a chip shop, and there wasn't the same like availability of different types of like takeaway and stuff like that. You couldn't also order online, so if you wanted a takeaway you had to like go and order it and pick it up yourself, which is a little bit more effort and probably makes you think it through more. My main things that I remember are going for lunch in town with my granny. If we went shopping with her on like a Saturday, we always went to the same little cafe above like a kind of Christian bookshop that she liked to go to. And I remember going for chips with her or getting them to take away. And we would go for ice cream and my mum and granny would get like a cappuccino and an ice cream and we'd like sit at the window and yeah, it was just like, it felt like a real kind of treasured experience. It didn't feel like something that you took for granted because it wasn't every 2 seconds like things are today. And I think there wasn't the same attitude of kind of like mindlessly wandering into places, and sometimes I think that we might be a bit zombified like because of the internet and our phones, and it's almost like we're in a trance and just do things like automatically without really giving them a lot of thought. And I don't think that's like a personal flaw. I think it's something that we've kind of been programmed to do, and it's hard to undo that programming, but it is possible. So I feel like we always like had to keep ourselves busy at home. Like I think in my household there was like an expectation that you made your own entertainment, that adults weren't responsible for your like fun. Like I feel like kids now seem to expect like an entertainment program. Even my own kids, I feel like when they're bored they're immediately like, what are you gonna do now for me? Where are we gonna go? Like what should I do with my time? What can we do together? But I wouldn't have done that as much because I just knew that you had to make your own fun. But that also is a gift because it makes you creative and resourceful. And I just remember my sister and I coming up with all these little like silly games, and we spent so much time in our garden. It felt like life kind of centered around the garden, and we were lucky to have quite a big garden that you could run about in. And my next door neighbours gave us like a hand-me-down like kitchen that they didn't need anymore because they were a bit older than us, and we played with that all the time in the garden, like making like grass soup, and like there were chives and herbs and stuff in the garden. We'd use that for our pretend cooking. I also remember playing like a detective game with my sister that went on for ages, where you would kind of like pretend something was evidence and then go on this hunt to find like what it was, and just kind of create a whole story out of it even though there wasn't one. And then I also remember doing ridiculous things too, like probably that we shouldn't have been doing, like trying to toast crisps over a lamp. But it makes for like funny stories kind of. And I remember playing with the kids in the street a lot. That was kind of our main form of entertainment, was either playing in the street with friends on our bikes and stuff, or if anybody had rollerblades, and like playing together in the house, or just doing your own thing in the house. I feel like my parents like they would have left like the major jobs in the house to professionals, but they were really into kind of DIY, especially my dad. Like he looked after the whole garden and the cars himself. Like he would have done any odd jobs around the house. Sometimes I think that wasn't the best idea. Like there was a time whenever I was a kid and he was painting the windowsills upstairs and he fell off the ladder and broke his back. So I don't think that that's always a positive thing, but at least like he was willing to do the stuff himself, and that saved a lot of money. And I just think there wasn't the same attitude of you can just throw money around you and kind of get someone else to take care of it. We went, like whenever I was younger, we always went on like local holidays. Like I remember going to places like Portrush and Portstewart and Donegal, and places in Ireland and Northern Ireland that were like not too far from home. We spent a lot of time with family and friends. I still feel like we kind of keep this up. Like I tend to go to my parents on a Sunday. I try to see my sister every week and her kids, and I just think the more time you spend with family and friends, that you have this like feeling of community, and you feel like the company kind of fills the void, so you're less likely to spend as much because you're having like valuable kind of connections with people. And I think that a lot of the time when people are shopping, they kind of unknowingly are searching for that and thinking shopping will kind of like plug the gap, but it actually isn't that. It's that they maybe feel disconnected from society or people around them, or don't feel like they have enough community. I remember window shopping being like a really regular occurrence. Like we used to go into town quite often on a Saturday with my granny, and I felt like going and looking around in itself was an activity. Like it was something to be excited about. And it wasn't about the buying, it was about the experience of walking around, having a look, and then like going for lunch together. We for a long time only had one car, and my dad, I remember him like carpooling basically, like a neighbour like took him to work, or they kind of shared, anyone that was going into Belfast shared a lift. And then my mom had the car. She also worked till full time till I was like 8, so we spent a lot of time with our childminder who lived in our village, and I feel like she was really inspiring too in coming up with fun things to do without spending much money. And I'd actually like to do a separate video on her because I feel like there's quite a lot to say. I remember kind of being encouraged to save money, like pocket money, and put it in like a little piggy bank that I had, and I don't remember ever spending it, but it was like I remember sitting counting it and feeling proud of seeing it grow. And I feel like there was an attitude of that, like, and maybe because I don't know, my dad's always been really good at managing money, like he probably encouraged us to do that too. And I remember small things being made into like an occasion to celebrate, like we used to walk to the petrol station with my dad, which was at like the other end of the town, and he would get us an ice lolly, and he'd always be like, you can have like, you know, like the pear lolly or the pineapple one or like a Joker, but he'd be like, you can't have a cornetto, or like one of the more expensive ones. It would always be like, you can have one of these simple ones. But I really liked them, and it was just something I really appreciated doing. It just felt like an event. But yeah, we definitely weren't told that we could have like whatever we wanted. Like that wasn't the attitude at all. It was like, you be happy with what you can have, kind of. So we made a lot of our own fun, and I remember a lot of that being centered around things my granny got us for birthdays or Christmas. Like she got us cameras, and I really loved using mine, and getting the photos developed and getting people to pose for photos and making it all like really like trying to take these professional photos that looked anything but it was really fun and creative. And she gave us tape recorders too, so we would always listen to tapes on them and record ourselves like messing about and singing and stuff, and that would take up like hours. Like it was just so much fun. And she used to make us mixtapes as well, which I loved listening to. I still think this is like one of my favourite presents, and I wish you could still give it to people in the same way, because it's just such a personal gift. And I was introduced to a lot of music. Like I kind of feel like that's how I got into blues music and stuff, because she made me these tapes, and some of it wasn't stuff I wanted to listen to, like because she loved Scotland, and she would give me like tapes of like Scottish like traditional music, and I just wasn't into that. But it's still like such a thoughtful thing to do and really interesting, and helps you kind of discover your own musical tastes. And we were kind of encouraged to do like homemade gifts as well. Like it was perfectly acceptable to do that within our family. Like my granny would make us things that she'd knitted or crocheted, and she had the mixtapes obviously, and she did the rock painting with us for members of the family. I feel like we loved our like hand-me-downs and got a lot of them. Like I don't even know where they came from. I think it was just like older friends and stuff, but like I just feel like there was more of an attitude of sharing and passing on what you no longer needed. And I think that is coming back now again, but I never felt like something wasn't as good because it was secondhand. Like I was just excited to have it. I also remember having like, this is going to sound silly, and maybe it's just me, but I kind of suspect it's not. I feel like nowadays, like we have a chest of drawers or something like that, and it's always stuffed and hard to get into and hard to find stuff in, and it's all kind of like crammed in. I don't remember drawers and things like that being overstuffed then, and I remember being able to open and close it with ease and kind of find what you were looking for very quickly, and it wasn't like a whole mission. And I think that is something that isn't as common now. Maybe for some people it's normal, but I feel like I have a tendency to stuff stuff into drawers, and then I have to dig through looking for things, and that's something I really want to correct this year. Yeah, I just feel like we had what we needed and no more than that. I also remember errands being treated as like a day out in themselves. Like we would go along with my dad while he did things like that he had to do, and that would be like our outing, and we might get like lunch if we were out, like a sandwich somewhere, but the day could be centered around all these errands. And I didn't always love that, because sometimes it feels like you're being trailed around, but we had lower expectations basically of what we wanted from a day off school, for example. And I remember him doing things as well, like he would take us to the fish shop to look at all the fish swimming about, and we had fish at home, and I feel like a lot of time was put into caring for our pets at home, and that was like an activity in itself. But I used to love going to see all the tropical fish, and just even if we didn't buy any, just looking at them was really fun. I remember us doing community events, and we went to church at that time and were involved in different things through that. So there'd be like church sales, and everybody would help out with that, and you would buy something for 50p and feel kind of rich. And I remember like school days as well. Like school would kind of provide a lot of the entertainment in terms of things like there was a summer fair or like a school trip. Even during the school day would feel like a major outing. It wasn't like we were expecting that all the time. And I feel like a lot of kids nowadays, and I've been guilty of doing this with mine too, they expect like big days out every time they're off school, and it's not really sustainable and it's hard to afford it. I just think that I kind of want to return to a simpler time when we were happier to be at home and not constantly being given a quick solution to our boredom. I also remember my mum kind of rotating the same simple meals, like, and they didn't always contain like tons of ingredients and things. Like I remember her making corned beef hash and stew, and I remember her making macaroni cheese with mashed potatoes, which was like a real comfort food. But I don't remember her varying the meals as much as a lot of families would do now, and I think we used simpler ingredients because there just wasn't the same availability of stuff from all over the world. And I do love, like, I really love Asian food and stuff, for example, and I wouldn't want to go back to a time where it wasn't as readily available, but I think that we probably ate more healthily at that time because dinner was basically meat, 2 veg, potatoes. I also remember my parents shopping locally and there weren't the same like chain stores, at least not on the same scale. We did all our food shopping like in our village, and I remember a fruit and veg van coming to the door as well. And we had like a milkman who brought like the glass bottles and we left them out and we reused the bottles basically. And things like going out for an ice cream on its own was like a really big treat, and I just feel like growing up in that time made me appreciate the little things, and I am grateful to it for kind of providing me with the gift of like creativity, because I feel like if I had been born in a time when there was internet and phones and stuff, I feel like that would have distracted me a lot from that, and I don't know that I would have developed the same skills to kind of entertain myself and not feel bored. So yeah, I'll probably share another video like this if anyone finds it helpful, and feel free to share any thoughts and ideas you have below, or about your own childhood and how it inspired you, like with frugal living. And don't forget to subscribe, comment, share, and I will make another video soon. Bye.